Commissioner Conway, members, I thank you for the opportunity to speak to this task force. My name is Ellen Laurence. I'm from Greeley, Colorado, and I'm a registered nurse. I was also a member of the Joint Budget Committee Task Force of 2014 to study matters related to the state's 3 regional centers. So I'm aware of and appreciative of the hours and the hard work that a task force puts in. And for that, I thank you. I'm a member of various committees that are involved with regional center programming, so I feel that I can speak with some small degree of knowledge to that. My husband and I are parents to 3 children. Our youngest daughter, Annie, is 38 years old, and she's been a resident of Wheat Ridge Regional Center for 25 years. In 1995, we made the heart-wrenching decision to seek placement for Annie because her 24-hour-a-day care precluded any semblance of normalcy for our family, and we had essentially sacrificed our other 2 children in our attempts to keep Annie at home. At that time, we approached 43 agencies in Colorado and surrounding states looking for help for our special needs child. Without exception, every behavioral health organization that we approached refused to even talk to us due to our daughter's diagnosis of severe to profound IDD. Unfortunately, 25 years later, things don't seem to have changed much, if at all. We are pleased with our daughter's continued placement at Wheat Ridge Regional Center. What we're not pleased with or comfortable with is the continuing practice of using the regional centers as a dumping grounds. Persons with a diagnosis of IDD, no matter how mild, who are experiencing a mental health crisis and are in need of stabilization, seem to be systematically dumped into the nearest regional center. Going back to the old educational mantra, the question begs to be answered. Is the regional center placement the most appropriate and the least restrictive for this client? It is not therapeutic and it's not moral to place someone who is in crisis into a home with some of Colorado's most vulnerable and primarily IDD residents. How demeaning and how depressing it must be for someone who can read, write, use public transportation, have significant others, who has held a job to, because of a need for crisis stabilization, be placed in a home with long-term residents who need 24-hour-a-day staff support for basic ADLs, bathing, toileting, dressing, feeding, etc. And it is absolutely unfair and unsafe for those vulnerable IDD residents. Wheat Ridge Regional Center is currently experiencing one of the worst staffing crises I've seen in the 25 years that my daughter has lived there. One reason that is given by staff as to why they are leaving is that they are not trained to deal with complex mental health consumers, and they are afraid for their personal safety and the safety of the more vulnerable clients that they are responsible for. Also, the mix of 2 very diverse functioning groups within the same house leaves staff feeling that if they get through a shift, with no one going out 911 or assaulting another resident, it can be considered a successful shift. But under these circumstances, active treatment cannot occur. I honestly don't know what the answer is to this current crisis, but I do know that it's long past time for the behavioral health organizations of this state to step up to the plate, to quit cherry picking who they want to serve, and to start treating every person, even if they have a diagnosis of IDD. It would seem to make a great deal of sense to establish inpatient residential centers to meet the more specific needs of clients with IDD who need the crisis stabilization, rather than to commit them to a regional center. And I use the word commit because to be admitted to the regional center, there must be a court-ordered ILD or imposition of legal disability. CDHS also needs to recognize the inappropriateness of defaulting to regional centers for crisis stabilization by providing treatment and services that would be better served elsewhere. There are not easy fixes that this task force is wrestling with, and again, I thank you all for your time and your commitment to addressing a very difficult human situation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Laurence.